I think if there's one thing I've learned throughout the past 25, almost 26 years of my life, it would probably be that we are not perfect. And, I've definitely learned this a lot from going to work and just in general. I've learned I'm not perfect. For example, there was a time I want to say probably like 2 weeks ago, where I was cutting bologna, or I was cutting liverwurst, and the customer wanted bologna, and you don't know they're basically both round, just kind of weird blob things, kind of. Liverwurst is a little more disgusting than bologna is. Point is, I accidentally cut him bologna, or I cut him liverwurst instead of bologna, and it was like that. It's a little small for bologna. I was like, yeah, that's liverwurst. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm stupid. And so, I feel like sometimes it's a little easy to beat yourself up for that type of stuff, or like you gain back some weight, or, even in the car. Admittedly, on the way here, there were a couple times I maybe braked a little harder than I should have. So, yeah. But to kind of circle back to really what I want to talk about, it kind of felt like in the past couple months I really had not been making great progress compared to where I started. Because if we go back like half a year, I was in a completely different spot than I am now. And it's like, back then I couldn't drive, I wasn't working, I didn't have money, I, didn't have confidence, I didn't have any of that stuff. And I went from that to, the polar opposite essentially in the span of a couple months, or even just like maybe a month or two. And then to go from like that level of like, I'm going on an upward trajectory, and then it's instantly like, well, now I'm not really like doing anything, and sometimes I'm even getting like a little worse at things. That sometimes it'd be a little demoralizing. And, for the most part, the past couple months, it's really just kind of been like, I'm working, going to the same places, doing the same things. That's kind of it. And I think that has kind of been a big problem for me, because it kind of really like killed my motivation a little bit. But I kind of think that maybe I was a little crazy about that. Because on the one hand, like it really feels bad when you're like, oh, I am like undoing my progress, so I'm not making progress, and I'm getting worse at things. But I recently I kind of thought about it, and I thought about it all the way back in like 8th grade, which was a way different time. Like, that was back like peak League of Legends. That was like, I didn't even have a fucking gaming PC back then. It was, a shitty all-in-one that I was like playing games on, and like couldn't really run many good games. So, you know, times have changed a lot. And one of the things that I really talked about, because I kind of talked about this with my therapist, which currently waiting on that because I got here early. So I was like, what am I going to do it by 20 minutes? I was like, fuck it, we'll make this. So that's what I'm doing. But anyways, back to what I was saying. I didn't do my summer assignments when I was in 8th grade. And, if you don't even know what summer assignments are, which I don't know if they exist around the world, but basically they give you like a big project to do over the summer, and you're supposed to do that. And I didn't do that because I read like 2 pages of the book. I was like, no, fuck no. I'm not reading this shit. I hate it. And because of that, like, the summer assignment, for some reason, it counts like the 20% of your like cumulative grade. So I'm like, fuck. I'm fucked. I'm gonna get fucked. And that's basically what happened. I didn't do either of my English or math assignments, and then it was downhill from there. And it got to the point where it's like I don't really even want to try anymore. So I wasn't trying in school, and I was using, other things as a form of escapism. I was playing, as I said, I was playing League of Legends. I was like peak addiction to League of Legends was 8th grade, because I was just like, I don't want to do anything else with my life. I fucking hate it, And also, I was seeking other forms of escapism, maybe a little bit of gooning. Yeah. Maybe that'll be like a whole other thing someday. But like that was like the period where I went from no goon to like a lot of goon. So that was like one of the few ways that was like, this is one of the few ways I could escape from, fucking dealing with school all day. But then in high school, things got a little better because, I started to actually kind of like do my work again, because I didn't have shitty summer assignments to like deal with. And it's like, oh, well, you didn't do your summer assignment, so like, you just lose a shit ton of your grade immediately and all that. But the thing was that at the same time, even though I was now doing my work and I was in some ways even getting better, like I got my license in high school. I was starting to go out with friends more slowly, instead of just fucking sitting in my room playing League of Legends, even though I was still doing a lot of that. But yeah, I got better. But problem that I had was that I never really had things to like keep pushing me forward, and especially into college. Like, felt like I was doing the work and I was doing the bare minimum, but I wasn't getting anywhere. I wasn't going that extra mile to like, hey, I want to try to like turn this into a job opportunity or something. That didn't happen. And so that was a big problem for me. And also, I think part of a lot of that stuff was me not wanting to feel like a burden, because I felt like, oh, if I drive, I'm going to be a burden to people on the road. Or, just made me think now. On the way here, let me tell you, man, there were a couple burdens on the road, and I was not one of them. Holy fuck, dude. But as I was saying, I never wanted to be a burden, like in terms of like money. If I go to a big college, it's snowing. Fuck. I hope it doesn't stick. Oh, that would fucking suck if it sticks. Don't you fucking dare stick on me, you little bitch. Oh my god. So anyways, yeah. I was, I was doing fine in school and all that, but it was like I was never taking it the extra mile. So that was a big problem. And now that I kind of look at it through that lens, right, I feel like I have come a long way since then, because it's nothing even close to what that was. Because, I now am doing a lot more meaningful things in my life. Even stuff like this is better than, just sitting in your room playing League of Legends for like 7 hours. So that's good, right? And, on top of that, I'm actually kind of trying to at least push towards my future compared to what I was doing before. So, and I kind of wanted to talk about one of the places I really felt this kind of like realizing, maybe it's not that bad. Because you go back to like May of this year, right? I weighed like 200.8 pounds, which is a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight. And it wasn't like as bad as like my peak. I would say my peak is probably like 220 or something. But it still wasn't great. Like, you don't really want to be 200 pounds. I mean, it's like better than being 300 pounds, but like still. But since then, I've lost like 35 pounds, which, in the span of 6 months, that's a lot. That's a lot of weight. So, and I've been a lot better at like at least maintaining it. If I'm not losing weight outright, I'm at least, maintaining it. So that's good. And it also helps that on top of all that weight loss, I actually have a decent amount of muscle I've talked about before, just, from working and even just from working out too. So that's a good thing, right? And on top of that, back in May, I wasn't really driving at all. Like maybe I'd driven like once or twice, and I had at least gotten a little bit of experience on my own, but like I was still too afraid to drive. And, you know, I've gotten much better now. I've even driven on the highway, which, is stressful, but I've done it. And I've also had like a few close calls, which one of which I was thinking about when I wrote this, which was there was a day where I went on this random road that I was like, I'll go here. And I had never been on it really before. And it was like a left and straight lane and then a right only lane. And I accidentally went in the right only lane. And I was like, well, shit. I mean, I guess I'll turn right then, right? I'm not going to be a dickhead and like just, try to like cut in the other lane or whatever. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go right and then I'll figure it out from there. And so the guy in front of me turned right and I was about to make my right turn. And some guy comes like right, after this guy to make his left turn when I'm right there. And it was pretty close, because I'm like making my turn as this guy decides to fucking just cut through. And I managed to stop in time. And that was always something I was always worried about. Like, I would start doing something and then some idiot would come and, try to beat me to it or whatever. And then I wouldn't be able to stop in time. But I stopped in time. It worked. I did it, right? It was close, but I made it. And like stuff like that really just kind of like built my confidence a little bit because I was like, I'm not just gonna fucking, have the car explode because some idiot is in front of me, So that was a good thing. And also, back in May, I didn't have a job, so that was kind of a thing. And I didn't feel like I could really handle a job that well, and especially, I didn't think I could handle a deli job. Like, I never thought I'd be able to do a deli job. Like, I don't want to like touch people's food and shit. And like, I have to be around these fucking giant blades all day. And here I am like 5 months later, like, yep. Yeah. I'm doing it and doing it better than one of my coworkers. We'll just leave it at that. God, I still want to punch that guy. That'll be for another day. But, I've been excelling at the job, and a lot of people, a lot of my coworkers, as I'll kind of talk about in the weekly update. If you probably see the weekly update before this, to be honest, but yeah. A lot of my coworkers really, really like me, and a lot of customers also really like me, and some of them say like I'm the best guy there, and I'm like, really? I don't think I'm the best, but I mean, whatever they think, right? And also, back in May, I didn't really work out, which I guess this kind of doesn't work as well because I didn't work out today. And I kind of haven't been working out recently because I was sick and shitload of work and yeah, and Christmas and yeah. But back when I was in May, I wasn't working out at all. And now I have been working out a lot. There was a point where I worked out maybe a little too much, and I kind of realized, like, I'm not even giving my body a break working out 7 days a week. Might not be great. So now I've kind of changed that up a little bit. But it just makes me feel so much, like, better. It makes me feel not shitty to work out, It's a good thing. And I've even been getting better, at doing it, like, when there's other people around. Because that was always something I was always terrible at. Like, I didn't want to work out if, like, anybody is remotely close by. But, yeah. And, back in May, it kind of just felt like all I really had was video games. That was basically it. It's just, I'm playing video games, and, like, I want to, like, make YouTube videos, I guess, and that's kind of it. And now I have so much more. Now I have a way better life than I did before. And there still is a lot to improve on. Like, don't get me wrong, right? I still want to do more, YouTube, like, creative stuff. I want to, really get into reading. I want to get into a lot of, like, music stuff. I want to get into saving money and not spending all my money like I just did last night. I spent $70. But, yeah. And then also planning for the future, because to be honest, like, I haven't really been thinking that much about the future. So that's a thing too. And also, trying to cut down a little bit on like dopamine stuff, like, playing games and watching videos all the time. It's not like TikTok brain rot levels of bad, but like it could be much better. But where I kind of wanted to really go with this is just realizing like I have become a much better person than I was, half a year ago, and, years ago. And I think it kind of felt right to record this now because it's Christmas, or not Christmas Eve. It's New Year's Eve as I'm recording this. I don't know when you're going to see this, but it's New Year's Eve when I'm recording this. And it kind of makes me feel like, this year was a good year, right? Not perfect. It had its issues, but you know what? I feel much better about where I am now than I did before, So I think that is kind of really what I wanted to drive home. Just, I have massively changed a lot. And like, I think it's very easy to look at a specific point and be like, wow, I'm, fucking horrendous. Like I gained a pound or something since yesterday. Right. But the thing you have to understand is that you really need to kind of look at the trend, because when you look at like a weight graph, for example, which I'm probably going to use like my weight graph in the thumbnail, and you look at it and it kind of goes like, down, but then there's like a bunch of hiccups. Like some days, you gain weight, or some days like, it's not as much weight loss or whatever, right? Sometimes scales also just don't work well. I know that well for being a deli guy, but I feel like it's important to sometimes just kind of look at the overall trend, because you look at the trend as going down, right? But, sometimes you just look from point to point, it's like, it looks like this, but like you're going down, right? You're doing well, right? But there's always little hiccups here and there. And so the point I really wanted to drive home was just, sometimes you gotta kind of understand that, because I look at where I am and I am way better than where I was back in school, right? Even if there's problems still, I'm still way better than where I was. And even, in terms of where I was 6 months ago, I am infinitely better than where I was 6 months ago, or especially a year ago. And so I kind of wanted to end this just trying to make a little more of a positive note, to take some time and just, reflect on the good things and reflect on the trend, instead of reflecting on like this moment in time compared to like the last moment in time where like you're thinking, oh, well, I did so much better yesterday, something like that. Because, there might be days that aren't perfect, but you can kind of look back and see like the trend is good. And even if the trend isn't good, right, it still kind of tells you things, right? Even if it's, it's something negative, you could think, well, why this negative trend happen and how could I fix it? That sort of thing. And kind of going back to the weight thing before I end this, it's very easy to, when you're trying to lose weight, it's easy to be like, oh, well, I'm fucking up because my, I gained like a pound today. But if you look at the general trend, you're going to see that you're losing weight if you're actually trying, and that is something I've always struggled with. And it just really made it so much easier to like see that general trend and be like, well, I had that one day where like I ate like 200 calories at Outback, or 2,000 calories at Outback, but overall it's fine. It's fine. And so that's where I'm going to leave it, because I have to go to my appointment, because I got like 3 minutes. So I'm going to end this here and go do that. So, yeah, I guess that's it.